The story begins not with a battlefield, but in the quiet, high-stakes world of corporate law. We meet Matthew Walton, a freelance lawyer who's essentially a modern-day ronin. He's skilled, he's independent, and he's trying to find a sense of peace, perhaps by reconnecting with his daughter, away from the frantic pace of the big firms. That peace is interrupted when he's approached by Matsuo Noda, a powerful and enigmatic Japanese industrialist. At first, Noda seems like a standard client, looking for help with real estate and market hedging. But as Walton gets deeper into the paperwork, he realizes he isn't just managing assets, he's being used as a front for something much larger and much more dangerous. Noda's true objective is a coordinated, massive assault on the American economy. To pull this off, he's utilizing something called the 800-year fund. This isn't just a massive pool of capital, it's a vehicle fueled by the discovery of a sacred Imperial Sword, a move that bridges the gap between ancient Shinto tradition and modern high finance. Noda begins shorting US treasuries and manipulating interest rates, attempting to destabilize the very foundation of the American market. As Walton realizes his legal expertise is being used to mask these massive predatory trades, the conflict shifts from the boardroom to personal warfare. Professional intruders begin targeting him, stealing his private authentication files and making it clear that this is no longer just a business dispute. While Walton is navigating this financial minefield, the narrative brings us to a second parallel thread. Tamara Richardson, a professor at NYU who goes by Tam, is investigating a different kind of surge, Japan's aggressive push into fifth-generation II technology. Tam discovers that the Japanese government, through a ministry known as MITI, is using state-driven technological acceleration to leapfrog American innovation. She isn't just looking at code, she's looking at the future of global power. Her investigation leads her to Kenji Asano, a high-level strategist who reveals the staggering depth of the Japanese plan. It's not just about being faster or smarter, it's about a fundamental shift in how global influence is wielded. As we move into the heart of the story, the scale of Noda's ambition becomes clear. His company, Dai Nippon International, or DNI, uses the emperor's endorsement of the 800-year fund to mobilize trillions of yen. He has effectively turned national identity into a weapon of economic power. But Noda isn't satisfied with just moving numbers on a screen. As the US market begins to crash, a crash that Noda himself orchestrated as a massive feint, he shifts his strategy toward what he calls brainpower acquisition. This is where the book gets particularly chilling. Noda uses the chaos of the market collapse to aggressively buy up undervalued American high-tech, biotech, and aerospace companies. He isn't just looking for profit, he's performing a strategic takeover of American intellectual property and research and development. He is essentially buying the American mind. During this period, Tam is recruited by Noda. He reveals her secret Fujiwara lineage, claiming she has a biological and historical duty to help guide this new global order. She is brought into his inner circle, working alongside him to restructure American firms. The goal is to strip away what Noda views as the greed of Western executive culture and replace it with a disciplined, long-term Japanese-style management. However, the more Tam and Walton learn, the darker the picture becomes. They realize that Noda's endgame isn't just economic integration or even a more efficient version of capitalism. He wants to dismantle Western-style democracy in favor of a centralized, feudal-style autocracy. They uncover a plan called Operation Market Share, 9Z, a MITI-backed initiative designed to monopolize the global semiconductor supply. This is the modern equivalent of controlling the spice in June or the oil in the 20th century. Whoever controls the chips controls the world. The tension reaches a breaking point, and the story moves toward a violent climax. Walton and Tam attempt a desperate, high-stakes countermove. They try to hijack DNI's own supercomputer to dump their assets and trigger a liquidity crisis of their own, hoping to break Noda's momentum. This leads to a frantic physical infiltration of the DNI headquarters during a massive blizzard. It's a collision of two different worlds, high-tech digital warfare meeting old-world violence. The confrontation is lethal. A mercenary named Jim Bob is killed, and in a sudden, shocking turn, a helicopter crash kills Kenji Asano. Asano, who had been trying to maintain a balance between tradition and technology, is silenced in an attempt to stop the whistleblowers. In the final, frantic moments, the protagonists realize they have been outmaneuvered at every turn. Noda had anticipated their move perfectly. He had used a corrupt trader to hijack their own automated trading programs, turning Walton and Tam's own weapons against them to facilitate his final acquisitions. The climax involves a ritualistic confrontation with Akira Mori, a nationalist who represents the most lethal, traditionalist side of Japanese power. In the ensuing chaos, a fire breaks out and destroys the DNI mainframe. This fire is crucial because it erases the digital evidence of Noda's massive takeover, leaving the ownership of much of America's most vital technology in a state of chaotic, unrecorded transition. And the book ends on a haunting note. Noda's Nipponica alliance, which was supposed to be a new global order, ends up appearing as a hollow shell. The victory is Pyrrhic. The global economic order isn't replaced by a single, stable empire. Instead, it is left in a state of permanent, unpredictable flux. The old rules are gone, and the new ones are written in the smoke of a burning mainframe. When we step back from the plot to look at what Hoover is actually doing here, several themes emerge that give the book its weight. One of the most central ideas is the concept of ken no sen, or moving first. In traditional Japanese martial arts, this is the idea of striking an opponent before they have even realized the fight has begun. In the novel, this becomes a metaphor for modern market manipulation. Noda doesn't wait for the market to change. He changes the market so that his opponents have already lost before they even know they are in a battle. It's a predatory, preemptive way of existing in the world. There is also the concept of technological nationalism. We often think of globalization as a force that blurs borders and makes nations less relevant. But Hoover suggests the opposite, that technology, specifically AI and semiconductors, actually creates new, even more intense forms of nationalism. Control over a supply chain or a specific type of algorithm becomes the modern equivalent of territorial conquest. You don't need to invade a country with tanks if you can simply own the intellectual property that runs their entire infrastructure. The book also plays heavily with the tension between tatemei and on. In Japanese culture, tatemei refers to the public face, or the behavior one displays in social settings to maintain harmony, while on is one's true feelings and desires. This is mirrored in the corporate warfare of the novel. The public face is one of international cooperation, investment, and long-term management. The on is a predatory, existential war designed to dismantle the sovereignty of one nation to benefit another. The gap between what these corporations say they are doing and what they are actually doing is where the real danger lies. Finally, there is the striking fusion of ancient tradition and high-tech industry. Hoover doesn't treat the modern world as something that has replaced the old one. Instead, he shows how the old world, with its concepts of Bushido, Shintoism, and feudal loyalty, has been weaponized and uploaded into the digital age. Noda isn't just a CEO, he's a strategist using ancient cultural identities to mobilize massive amounts of modern capital. He uses the sacred to justify the secular, and the mythic to drive the mathematical. In the end, the samurai strategy leaves us with a vision of a new normal. It suggests that the battlefield has moved from physical territory to digital and economic systems, and that the warriors of this new era are not soldiers, but strategists who understand that the most effective way to conquer a nation is to simply own its future. It's a cynical, high-octane look at how the tools of the 21st century can be used to revive the ambitions of the 12th.